Hello and welcome to episode 3 of the Electrium podcast. Now if you're a sparky, it's more likely that you would have gone through the traditional route of becoming an electrician, gone to college, done an apprenticeship, and now you're perhaps a fully fledged electrician. But what if you completely changed careers to become an electrician from outside of our industry? Well, that's what Karen Boom, who runs She's Electric in Billericay in Essex, did. So what challenges did she face and what did she learn quickly when joining this world from a completely different industry? And also, it's a male-dominated industry, so what's it like being a female sparky in our world? Were there any challenges or stereotypes that she had to face? It was a sunny Thursday evening, so I gave Karen a call and we had a chat. Have a listen. Before you became an electrician, you were in a completely different profession. Why did you want to change careers? What did you do before being an electrician? And what was it about being an electrician that appealed to you?
Okay, so it's a fairly simple story. A really good friend of mine decided to emigrate and asked me to look after her house. And the house in question, before it could be rented, needed a few electrical jobs doing, and it was the first time in my entire life that I'd ever actually had to seek an electrician. And so I set about trying to find someone to do these very small jobs, and I was a little bit dismayed, I think is the word I'm going to use, when I tried to find somebody to come and do these small jobs. I hit a real wall. I had people that wouldn't answer the phone. I had people that did answer the phone but didn't come to quote. I had people that came to quote but then never came back to do the work. And I just sat there and thought, oh, wow, is there a real gap in the market for somebody that can just like do small jobs and turn up when they say they're going to turn up? So it set my brain going because I've got a very low boredom threshold, and I was at a point in my life where I needed to do something. So then I set about trying to look at the route into electrics as a mature person, which is very challenging, very thought-provoking. So yeah, that kind of, it all spiraled from there. Once I got the bee in my bonnet, I was like, right, I really want to make this happen, because I chatted to lots of people about what they thought about trades in general. And everyone was saying to me, oh my God, we find it really hard to get a tradesperson. There's not enough tradespeople, and the tradespeople that do come, you know, they're just not very nice. And I use that as a loose term, nice as in, you know, they're let's face it, being in the trades is a stressful profession. And sometimes when you turn up to meet people, you have to try hard to not let that come through. You've got to put your face on, you've got to put your mask on, and you've got to turn up and almost pretend like everything's chilled, even though it's not, because you're really stressed.
Yeah, because they don't know you could have been at a really difficult job only half an hour ago. That could be your 8th job of the day.
Yeah. And it's weird actually, because going at a full circle, now I know what I know. You know, I never do quotes in the evening. I just don't do that. I can be anywhere with anybody at 7 o'clock in the morning. I say to people, if you want to quote, I'm going to rock up at 7 o'clock in the morning, because 7 o'clock in the morning, you're at your best, you're fresh faced, you haven't got the day behind you, if that makes sense. So anyway, going back to your original question, that's how I ended up looking for this job. Yeah, and that's how I kind of fell into it, really.
And I guess there was perhaps a sense of leaping into the unknown a bit when you were looking into it, because obviously you were in a completely different role. Then you came to the world of the electrical industry. Was there a sense of it was a bit daunting when you looked at it first?
Well, massively. Like I say, I've got low boredom threshold, and I do love a bit of a challenge. And so when I set about trying to find a route into training, that was massively challenging, because let's face it, you know, there is this perception that unless you leave school, do a 5-year apprenticeship and then become a sparky, unless that's what you do, you're somehow treated as a bit of a second-class citizen. And that's a bit of a shame, because I know a few young apprentices who have only ever entered the industry and been treated quite badly and ended their apprenticeship on a bad note and then been no better off for that. That hasn't made them electricians, in the same way that I've been on my route, and when I got to the end of my training, I had lots of bits of paper but no experience. So I had to take that on board and go about my job in a responsible way. And what I did was I actually, saw lots of gaps in the market for a service provider. So what I spent the first 5 years of my job being a service provider. And what I did was I saw lots of people with electrical needs, and I subcontracted all of the work, and therefore I got on the job training, and my customers got an excellent job done. I didn't always complete the work. Sometimes I did under tuition, and sometimes I just oversaw the work done in the same way that any project manager would do.
So did you find that because you came late to the industry, as opposed to where, like you say, an apprentice would have learnt at college, then do experience, that was it a bit of a daunting thing, thinking you've then got to get all that experience and get back and really get yourself stuck into that world?
Massively, which I thoroughly enjoyed, because it was a challenge. I was like, oh, I've got to learn all this stuff now, and I used to sit up until the early hours of the morning, like Googling all the stuff I didn't know and learning about it, and then getting out there on the job and seeing it firsthand. It was fascinating. There's something very, very creative about electrical work, because you're always creating something. You're always solving a problem, or you're making something new. Yeah, and I absolutely loved that. And also I loved, like, sometimes for lots of people, you're the fourth emergency service. They've got stuff that's not working, and suddenly you're making it work, and people are so appreciative. So yeah, it tied in with all my sort of like things that I wanted to do.
It's funny how you say that, when we're in some way so dependent on electricity now, that if there is a power cut in somebody's house, it is like, oh, what are we going to do? There is, like you said, there is that kind of thing, when an electrician does come round, there is that, thank goodness, we can get this sorted now.
Massively, because what can we do without power now? Everything is dependent on power.
You qualified, you're all starting. Was there anything that was a bit of a reality check, that perhaps you came into it thinking one thing, and then the reality setting, thinking, oh, okay, I didn't expect it would be like this?
Yeah, massive. I mean, okay, so I've got on bits of paper. I've got a little bit of experience. I come at everything from a 100% point of view. So, I forgot initially when I went round to do quotes that I was only there to quote, and I tried to fix everything. So the guy would say to me, oh, I've got this and it's not working. So immediately, I'd have the fuse spur off the wall, and then the lug would drop out of the back plate, and I'm like, oh God, now.
Right, okay.
Now what am I going to do? Because now I've created another problem. Do you know what I mean? So,
it was almost like a running before you could walk.
Oh, yeah. But do you know what? I look back on those experiences now and think, okay, that's experience, because that's what I didn't have. So I've had to learn all that going along. And, it's interesting now, because I've got a trainee, and I've got a female trainee, which is fantastic. And I'm just trying to now, without filling her with too much knowledge that she'll spontaneously combust, trying to instill all of these things, into her, because I'm a great believer in passing knowledge on.
And I guess with the apprentice you have now, you're talking about kind of inspiring. I guess there is that balance with your experience of inspiring, but also giving the sense of reality checks. It's giving them enough to be inspired to do the role, but at the same time not to go over the top too much where they get a false expectation.
Yeah, and that's a really hard balance, because, you know, at the end of this day, this job, I mean, it's weird because, like I say, I'm actually going to be 50 in November. And I think for the first, you know, in my employed life, which was 20 years before getting to this job, in that time, I wore a lot of hats. And I do believe that I was almost being prepared for this job. So I've been involved in, you know, customer service. I've been involved in social work. I've been involved in emergency services. I used to be a special constable. You know, I've been involved in loads of different things. And I do think that being an electrician, we have to wear many hats. When we walk into a job, we never know what we're going to find. You know, and we are doing social work. We are doing emergency work. We're doing, you know, therapy work. Some people that you turn up and they just want to, especially old people, you know, they want to just tell you their life history.
Yeah, they want that conversation, don't they?
They just want that connection with somebody, you know. And I suppose as a female, I feel that more and I get drawn into that a lot. So every job takes me probably twice as long as a male electrician because I'm doing the chat. Yeah, so, but however, I wish I'd discovered this job sooner because I love it. And I do think that it's a good thing for females to do.
Compared to the other roles you've had that you've just said, would you say it's unknown to people outside that world, actually more of a demanding role compared to other roles? Or how would you, if you could describe the difference between what you've done previously and being an electrician, how would you sum it up?
Well, no 2 days are the same. Like, you just don't know and you just can't plan. You can never plan enough. So when you go to do a quote, for example, somebody says to you, oh, can you come round and change all my faceplates and all of my lights? So you're going there to do an LED upgrade and you're also converting all of their existing faceplates to chrome, let's say. Now that represents quite a big piece of work. And you never know until you actually start pulling stuff down what you're going to find. So recently I went to do a job. Well, you know, I didn't allow enough time for it because every single faceplate that I pulled off the wall, every single back plate was floating. It wasn't screwed in. So I'm now there thinking, oh God, this is going to be ag. Every single faceplate on the lighting was really shallow boxes and they wanted dimmers. So it's like, oh, these are going to have to be made deeper. All of the lights, I'd allowed for cans and lamps, but the ceiling recess was really shallow, so they wasn't going to fit.
It is like you turn up to a job and it is like anything can happen.
Anything can happen.
You know, you can, perhaps in some industries, some worlds, you can have it. You go to work and you know what's going to happen that day. Yes, you can have the odd thing that changes. But I guess is what you're trying to say there is you can, you know, you go into a job and literally anything can happen on that day.
Anything can happen. Then the dog escaped out the gate and then we was like chasing down the road after the dog. Yeah, so I just, you know, I do love it. I love it, but it is very challenging.
Stereotypically, people would say that electrical industry, in terms of electrical contractors, is perhaps probably more a male-dominated industry, but we are seeing more females coming into that world. Do you think it is still? Do you think are you seeing that ratio changing of seeing more women coming into and giving these roles a try?
No, I'm really not. It's very few and far between, and I do have a 17-year-old daughter. And what's quite interesting is, you know, I've sat at her options evening at school recently, and basically the headmaster gave a chat all about, you know, how they will try and guide these kids through their educational choices, and then where there will be where they will be guided towards. And the apprenticeship route into trades hasn't changed for a very long time. Let's face it, the apprenticeship route into trades has always been, it's been the same, like for the last 30 years, hasn't it? You leave school, you get taken on as apprentice, you do 5 years, and then at the end of it, you'll hopefully get taken on by a firm. And that's how it's been for a while. Unless we change that role into trades, we're dealing with kids now that A, they've got social media, B, they watch Love Island all the time, and C, they've got a better understanding of money. So they're thinking, well, I can go and do a degree apprenticeship in the city and get paid 20 grand in my first year. But the trades aren't going to pay that. And I just think that's twofold. One is because we don't value trades enough. I don't know why, but trades seem to be perceived as a low-paying job when it's not. And B, we're not sexying it up enough, and we're not like saying, oh my God, let's make this route into trades. Let's make this apprenticeship more appealing by giving these kids a better qualification. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, so I guess, there's a twofold thing there, isn't it, about the industry in the future kind of playing a part to, like you say, try and appeal it more to the younger audience. But I guess it's also as well of, from a school point of view, saying there isn't just university as an option, that there are apprenticeships, and these are trade jobs that you can really get a career from, the career that lasts for life. I guess there's a sense of what you're saying, there's a twofold approach that could help in the future.
Yeah, I mean, and that it sticks a nerve with me, because I wish I'd discovered this job sooner. Because why wouldn't you want to be self-employed? You've got your flexibility of hours, you've got, a trade for life. You can, let's face it, if these kids had a trade, they could travel. You can travel the world with a trade. Mm-hmm. And you'll always have something to fall back on. Whereas if you go and appear on Love Island and you're a nanosecond celebrity, the world's going to love you or hate you, and then it's all over, isn't it? But we don't teach kids anything practical, do we? It's all theory based, maths, English, physics, chemistry, religious education, history, geography. But what about the practical stuff? Because we can teach all our kids to be brain surgeons, but who's going to build the hospitals? We need more women in trades, but we just need more people in trades in general. Because if we don't encourage people into trades, well, I'll be rich, because my day rate will go up so massive that'll be amazing.
I just want to go back to an early point you made about, we were talking about how you still feel that the ratio is still male dominated. As being a female electrician, have you experienced any challenges, any stereotyping from that?
No, I have to say I've been really, really pleasantly surprised. Every male electrician I've ever come across has been really, really lovely. Oh wow, female sparky, oh that's amazing. But maybe that's because I'm older, so I've got the skills to sort of just derail a situation. Maybe if I was younger, I might be a bit more, I don't know, have a bit more chip on my shoulders. Does that make sense? Yeah. But I don't have any chips on my shoulders. I am who I am, and I'm happy with that, and that's great. I've only ever come across 2 quotes that I've gone to do where the homeowner has openly said to me, oh, I'm really sorry, but we haven't chosen you for the job because we didn't feel like you were up to the physical.
Wow. Okay.
The physical challenge of the work. And, I have to take that on board. I'm 5'0", and I What they don't know is that I have a guy that works for me who's 6'3" and built like a door. But that's their bad.
Yeah.
And I do think, I'm not a feminist. I'm not like, oh my God, I'm going to do everything on my own, because I've got strengths and weaknesses in the same way that everybody has. And so, yeah, I've got blokes that I draw on massive who come along and do all of my grunt work. That's just how it is. And I love that we have a really great energy in our work. Yeah, because I'm not going to stand here and go, I'm going to be Wonder Woman. I obviously am intelligent Wonder Woman, but, I have to accept my limitations. Going back to the feminine, masculine thing, I just do think that it is a shame that any females that want to come through don't really have role models.
I was going to mention that because I noticed on your Twitter you made a couple of points recently about that. I know I've mentioned before, you got the NIC, EIC pushing the bursary again to try and get more women into the industry. But you're saying that if there were more prominent female figures in the industry, would that help?
I think it would massively. And so the NIC are lovely and I love them. Emma Clancy has now stepped down, hasn't she, from Searchshore? So that's a bit of a shame. And we don't have many. I mean, if you looked at the assessor role, for example, in NIC, I think, I don't know what the ratio is, but it's very low. If there's 500 assessors, I think there might be 2 that are women. You look at the television in general. We had Bob the Builder. As far as I'm aware, in children's TV, there hasn't been anything else female inspired.
So it may not just be, I think it's an ongoing conversation in general everywhere, but it's not just the electrical industry, I guess. It's industries everywhere and trying to change that mentality.
Yeah, it will happen, but it will be slow. And it's good for me because it's a niche.
I would say final question then, Karen, is for someone who is perhaps thinking about entering our industry, perhaps entering a role like like an electrical contractor, who is completely outside of it. I think I want to try something completely different.
Yeah.
And I think I'm gonna. I don't know whether to take that dive or not. It looks like something I could, like you say, it's a career for life. It's something that you can build a really solid foundation on, and also teach other people in the future. What advice would you give those people who were thinking about taking that step forward?
I guess some of it would depend on the age of the person. However, all I would say is do research, reach out, ask for advice and ask for help, because there is a lot of it out there if you look for it. Make sure it's what you really want to do. Like, you've got to be passionate. This job is not an easy job. So you've got to be passionate about it, and then just, stick to your principles and stick to your guns and go out there, get the best education that you can, and then just, follow your dreams, follow your heart. There's loads of opportunity in this industry, and as long as you are heart-centered and you want to help people, because that's what we're ultimately doing, then I think you'd be good. But don't come at it from a financial gain point of view, because that's not really what it's all about. I mean, sure, there's a good living to be made, but it's not an easy, quick buck. You've got to work hard, you've got to build relationships with people, and you've just got to feel it, and you've got to want it, and then I think you'll be all right. I think the universe will look after you.